Welcome back. I'm here to answer more of your questions about food, nutrition, olive oil, balsamic, all the things, anything you have questions on. Today, I am answering your question on what exactly is balsamic and what the heck do I do with it. Happy to answer that question for you today, and we will get into that. I am Brandy Meilenberg, a doctoral candidate in functional nutrition, the owner of Cesaro Olio di Oliva, my Italian olive oil brand, as well as a nutritional health coach. Here to answer any of your questions, and let's get into balsamic. So, you've asked, what is balsamic and what do I do with it anyway? Well, let's first talk about what balsamic is. Balsamic is grape. First and foremost, it comes from grapes. So, it is made from grape must that is fermented over years of time, typically and more traditionally in oak barrels. So if you are finding out there balsamic that has not aged for a minimum of 4 years, then you're not getting a traditional balsamic. Typically, the balsamic is aged 4 to up to 30 years in oak barrels. The reason for that is the aging process allows the fermentation. That fermentation is what brings out more of that flavor, more of that sweetness, allows more of that vinegar aspect to come out as well. It also changes the structure of the vinegar over time. So the longer it's aged, typically the thicker the balsamic vinegar gets. So you want to make sure that you are getting a really good aged balsamic. Traditional balsamic comes from a region of Italy known as Modena. So this area is known for its balsamic because it is basically the birthplace of balsamic, where it was really something that became a livelihood for a lot of people that live there. People became passionate about balsamic in this area. They really worked hard on it. They were passionate about how it turned out, to the point where barrels of balsamic were handed down throughout families for generations and generations to make sure that their family member had amazing, wonderful traditional balsamic to use in their own homes. So it was something that has been really important to that area and that region and to those families, and has really been honed down for many, many generations. So how do you know if you're getting a really good balsamic vinegar when you go to the store, when you order it online, however you go about getting your product? Is one, you want to make sure that it has been aged for an appropriate amount of time. The other and the easiest way to do this is to make sure that you are buying one that has a label on it that says DOP. The only way for a bottle of balsamic to get the DOP certification is if that vinegar was produced in that region of Italy. A lot of times it will say Modena DOP, which says, hey, this is geographically certified to come from this region and to be produced traditionally. That is a very important, easy way to make sure that you are getting really good, high quality, real balsamic. There is a lot of balsamic out there that is not produced traditionally, that is not very good, that has added caramel flavor, caramel coloring, different sugars added just to try and mimic what real balsamic tastes like. So if you're also seeing on the label anything being added, extra ingredients besides grape must or vinegar, you don't want that, because balsamic vinegar is legitimately just that grape must that is being harvested off of those vines that are grown in that region of Italy. It is boiled down. It is put into oak barrels where it lives for years and years. As it ferments, as the flavor changes, as the profile and structure and all of that changes. So it's very important to make sure that you're finding a balsamic that comes from that region. If you're someone who goes to the store and you have your whole life just kind of grabbed a bottle of balsamic, you've never really read the label, you've never really paid attention to where it comes from or what it says, and you like the flavor, but you haven't really given it much thought, try to find a really good DOP version of balsamic and give that a try. It will be life-changing to you. I run into people all the time at expos and at shows who have never tried a traditional real balsamic vinegar, and they are blown away by the texture, the flavor profile, just how different it is from what they're used to eating. A lot of the balsamic that we have here in the United States, just available in the stores, is very thin. It's very liquidy. It tends to be more bitter. You lose a lot of that sweetness. You're not really getting that grape flavor. When you get a DOP version of balsamic, you still can have a thin version where it's more liquidy, but it's going to have more structure to it. It's also going to be a little bit sweeter. So you're going to have a really good balance of sweet and vinegar. So it doesn't taste like you're just drinking a bottle of white vinegar. It does still have that bite and that kick in the back of your throat that you get from that vinegar tartness, but you're going to have a little bit of sweetness to kind of even that out. And it is so delicious. I've had multiple people come to me and try my brand's DOP balsamic and say that they've never tasted anything like it in their life. It's the most delicious thing they've ever tasted. The reason for that is because it does come from our partners in that region. They do care. They have been making the DOP balsamic vinegar for thousands of years. Their family has passed it down for so many generations, and they are just spectacular at it. There's never anything added to that. They never add extra food colorings. They never have to, because it comes out fantastic and tasting really well. So those are things you want to look for. I've also had people come to me at different expos saying that they don't like balsamic. They don't like the flavor of it. They've never liked it. They've tried it before. It's not anything they've liked. And a lot of times they get friends or family members convincing them to try it. And when they try our balsamic, they actually love it because it doesn't taste like the balsamic that they're used to. And so, it really is such a different flavor profile. So I encourage you, if you've tried balsamic in the past and you didn't like it, try a DOP version, a really traditional, whole, real, good version, and see if you like that instead. You may still not like it. Balsamic vinegar and vinegar in general is not for everyone, but I would say give it a try because you might be surprised that you like that flavor more than you thought you would. The other question that I get asked often is, what exactly do I do with balsamic? Most people, when they think of balsamic vinegar, they just think of dipping bread in it, which is 100% something that you can do with it. It is delicious. It's fantastic. I don't blame you for doing that with your balsamic. But that is only one of so many different things that you can do with your balsamic vinegar. So yes, you can use balsamic on its own as a bread drizzle. You can dip bread in it just as an appetizer. You can mix it with olive oil and use that as a bread dip with just balsamic and olive oil. You can take the balsamic and olive oil and put pepper flakes or some kind of seasoning in it and use that as a bread dip. A lot of times people will tell me they just use balsamic as their salad dressing, which is completely acceptable and delicious as well. So you can drizzle it over salad dressings. You can take any raw vegetables and drizzle balsamic over it that way. You can do roasted vegetables and do a drizzle of balsamic on it, and it's fantastic. The other thing a lot of people tell me that they do with their balsamic is they mix it with olive oil and use that mixture of balsamic and olive oil as their salad dressing. Fantastic. You can do that as well. A couple of things that people don't tend to know that they can do with balsamic, and out of the hundreds of people that I've talked to at different expos, at different shows, on different calls, in different settings, is they don't realize that balsamic is actually a fantastic marinade. And the reason for that is balsamic has that vinegar component to it, and so it actually tenderizes the meat really, really well. And so whether you're making chicken, steak, it really does not matter. I have marinated every form of meat you can think of in balsamic, and every single one of them have turned out spectacular. So you can definitely use it as a marinade. You can use it on its own as a marinade with just balsamic. You can mix it with whatever marinades you typically like. You can put seasoning in it, whatever you typically like to do. If you want to add balsamic in there, it's going to tenderize that meat. It's going to add an amazing flavor. And then it's also going to give you kind of those crispy ends to your steak, those kinds of things. It does a fantastic job on caramelizing the outside of meat as well. So it's a wonderful, wonderful marinade. I use it for that pretty regularly myself. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is balsamic is actually a very popular dessert add-on. So what exactly do I mean by that? You can take something like vanilla ice cream and you can drizzle balsamic on it and eat that. So fantastic. The sweetness of the ice cream along with the sweet and bitterness of the balsamic goes together beautifully, and it is such a fantastic taste. You can do a balsamic reduction where you kind of cook up the balsamic a little bit, reduce it down, and then pour that over ice cream or other types of desserts as well. The balsamic reduction is a fantastic addition to different types of fruits. The other dessert that I really love, especially in the summer when it's really hot outside, is to take really fresh strawberries, chop them up, and then you mix some balsamic vinegar in the strawberries. You just kind of put them all in a bowl, mix them all together so that the strawberries are coated, and then you can just eat those, and they're so fantastic. And if you really want to, you can top them with a little Cool Whip on top, and that combination just makes for a very delicious treat as well. So there's a lot of really fun, delicious things that you can do with balsamic outside of just using it as a bread dip or a salad dressing. And so it's a lot more versatile than people know or are used to. So try that. If you've never tried it as a marinade before, go for it. Give it a try, see what you think. If you've never used it in a dessert before, I say go for it. It really is so delicious and fantastic. And you want to make sure that you're looking for really high quality, good DOP balsamic vinegar. If you buy something that is not the DOP version, if you buy something in the store that's like or has caramel added to it or sugar added to it or those types of things, you're not going to get the same results or the same outcome. So if you go and purchase one of those and use that as a marinade, I can't promise you that you're going to get the same outcome as if you go to the store and you find or you order or you whatever you need to do the Italian Modena DOP version of balsamic is going to give you just a spectacular flavor. I can't promise that the two are going to correlate. I don't eat the other balsamic, so I have never tested that as a marinade or in a dessert for that matter. So I don't know. So do that at your own risk. So if you try that with a lesser quality balsamic and you're like, she's crazy, this does not work, it's because that balsamic does not work. You have to make sure that you are eating a real traditional balsamic. To do that, again, look at those labels, check and make sure you're getting a DOP certified version. Make sure that there's no added food coloring, added sugars, those kinds of things. You don't want that. To get that DOP certification, that balsamic has to come from Modena, Italy. It has to follow the traditional standard way of balsamic being made. It cannot have additives. It cannot have any of those other things in it, or they will not give it the certification. So that is why the DOP is really important. If you see that on a label, you know for a fact that it meets all of those quality standards and that you're getting a good product. A lot of times the bottles will also say how many years it has been fermented. Sometimes it doesn't have the years on it. Sometimes it does. A lot of times it doesn't have the years on it if the company is using the same bottle and labeling for all of their different types of balsamics. It's not going to have the year on it because they may have a balsamic that's aged 5 years and also a balsamic that's aged 25 years. And there might be a slight difference on the bottle, but they don't put the age on it just because it's a cost saving thing. If you've never owned a brand and had to print labels and had to bottle things, it is vastly expensive to make even the slightest change on a label. So a lot of times you may find that they don't do that. But some of them do have the age on it. If you ask a producer what the age is on that specific balsamic, they will 100% be able to tell you the exact aging on their product. And that is a valid question, and they're always happy to answer that. Again, you want to make sure it is 4 years or older to make sure that you're getting that really good, nice balsamic flavor. So go out there and try and marinade. Try it on ice cream. Trust me, it's delicious. If you don't love it, that's okay. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it really is fantastic. Balsamic is so versatile. There's so many things that you can do with it. The other fantastic thing about a good quality balsamic vinegar is if you store it properly. So let's talk about proper storage. If you keep it in a cool, dark place, so a pantry that shuts, a cabinet, your cupboard that you can close it and make it cool and dark. You don't want to keep it on your counter next to your stove or oven because it's constantly hot in that area. So it will heat up, it'll cool down, it'll heat up, it'll cool down. And so it's kind of getting exposed to different temperatures regularly. So you want to try and keep it in a cool, dark place, pull it out, use it when you're cooking with it, put it back away when you're done. That's going to preserve its quality for a really long time. if you do that, if you're storing your balsamic in a good way, if you're making sure that it's staying in a pantry in a cool, dark place, if you're ensuring that it is properly stored after every usage, it really has an indefinite shelf life. So you typically, if you have a really good DOP quality balsamic and you are keeping it the way that it's supposed to be and you're doing really good with its storage process, it can actually live in your pantry for 10 years. It kind of has an indefinite shelf life. Remember, it's a fermented food, which means that its fermentation process has really made it stable, really made it shelf stable. And so I don't recommend you to buy a bottle of balsamic and let it sit in your pantry for 10 years. I mean, use it. There's way too many wonderful things to do with it. It tastes way too good for it to sit there for that long, but it can if you need it to. So it's really important to know, that you don't have to rush through a bottle of balsamic thinking that it's going to go bad as long as it's properly stored. But again, use it so that it's not sitting there for 10 years because you're missing out on so many amazing, wonderful dishes that you can do and make with it if you actually use that product. If you're someone who's like, I don't know that I could do any of that, but I'll dip it in bread all day, that's fine. Whatever you need to do with that is completely fine. Balsamic is wonderful. It is because it's a fermented food, because if you get high quality stuff, it doesn't have any of those additives. It doesn't have all the pesticides and all that kind of stuff in it. If you get the DOP version, you know that it's been sustainably grown. You know that those vineyards and harvests have been done in a really well-maintained traditional way that is a steward of the land to really preserve what they're doing. They really take a lot of pride in that. In Modena, and so they make sure that all of those steps are followed. And because it's a fermented food, you're going to get a food that is really good for your gut health. Fermentation feeds the really good bugs inside your gut, and so you get really good bacterial support from that. There's so many wonderful health benefits to a good quality balsamic, and so eat that. I mean, you can have it every single day. It's not going to hurt you. But so many wonderful nutritional benefits along with just the fantastic taste that it has. So I hope that's answered all of your questions as what exactly is balsamic, what do I do with it, and how do I store it? I think we've covered all those questions. Yes, it is completely different from other types of vinegar. It's not the same as a white vinegar. It's not the same as an apple cider vinegar. It's not the same as a rice wine vinegar. All of those types of vinegars are completely different. They're made in a different way. They're made with different products, different things create those vinegars. So balsamic vinegar is strictly a grape juice that has been fermented, is kind of the easiest, most downplayed because that makes it sound way too simple because there's a lot more that goes into it than that. But the simplest term is it's like a grape juice that has been fermented over many years in oak barrels to give it this fantastic nutritional components as well as the flavor that is there with it. So I hope I answered your questions and come back next time.